America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. America. Tujikaze. Greetings everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the African Father in America podcast. My name is Simon Javan Okelo, and I'm extremely excited to be here with you on a beautiful Saturday evening here in Seattle, Washington. This is episode 60 of the African Father in America podcast, and today I'm really excited to be here with my sister Aviona Rodriguez Brown, who is an amazing leader here in Seattle, Washington. And today we are going to learn about Aviona's story. We are going to learn about this initiative that Aviona and I are involved with, that it's known as Farm and Fable. We are going to learn about self-awareness and healing. And we will learn about perspectives on Black fathers globally. And finally, we will learn how you, the viewers and listeners of the African Father in America podcast, can stay connected with the amazing Aviona Rodriguez Brown. And Aviona actually began as a child model for Bon Marche in the 90s and progressed to church choirs and singing Selena Quintanilla at talent shows. Her love to sing and move crowds grew. Throughout high school, she was introduced to the spectacle of larger-than-life theater at the alma mater Bishop Blanket High School. This program gave her the opportunity to work in some of the biggest houses in Seattle, the historic Moore Theater, Act Theater, and Benaroya Hall. My sister, please share with us a moment when you were between 8 to 12 years old. I was looking at your wonderful website and I was just seeing your cute little pictures. Please share with us a moment and paint a picture for us, or share with us some sounds of what made you become who you are. That moment that whenever you look back, for example, myself, I always remember this moment when I was 8 years old. My mother gave me a bicycle. It had a small wheel at the front, and so it had a big crate for carrying a lot of luggage, and then it had a big wheel at the back, and also with another big crate for carrying luggage. And that marked the beginning of my work as a milk and bread distributor in my neighborhood. I can never forget that. And I still have pictures of me, very little. I could not even sit on the bike, but I could ride it, Mm-hmm. So I became a milk and bread distributor in my neighborhood in Kenya. And that's how I grew to become the organizer and the entrepreneur that many people see in Seattle and throughout the world these days. So I wanted you to paint for us a picture similar to what I shared with you that can help us understand the moment that you always look back to and say, this moment is what built Aviona Rodriguez Brown.
Absolutely. Thank you, Simon, for having me. And hello to everyone listening. As you were describing that, it brought up a memory and a scene in my solo show that I continue to go back to. I was about 8, maybe 9.5, and my Latin mother had also my 2 younger siblings who are 5 years younger than me, so I'm the oldest. And as I recall, at the time we were homeless and very hungry. We were living in a hotel in the they call it Sodo, so south of downtown area, very industrial area of Seattle. And we were at a park actually in the Central District this day. And this park, sadly, due to gentrification, does not have all the beauty and wonder that it once had. But they had these pillars, and they had sprinklers on them because our summers used to be very hot, and it had a play structure, and there was a lot of people of a lot of different ethnicities at this park. So it was a melting pot. The Central District was really a melting pot for us, and it felt comfortable for my mom to bring me here and to be surrounded by other mothers and children. But at one point, I remember getting so hungry, and I went to my mom and I was like, "Mom, my stomach hurts. Can we eat? Are we going to eat soon?" And we could smell downwind a barbecue was happening in the park, and that was helping my hunger just crawl out to me. And so she goes, "Well, you see those people over there? They'll probably see you as family. Why don't you go and get a plate and bring it back to share with your family?" And I'm the darkest in my family, of my Latin family. And this family who was barbecuing, which I learned later was actually a church gathering. This church, they were all Black members. And so I remember walking across the park, and it felt like the longest solo
Yeah.
walk
Yeah.
that I had really ever experienced at that time. And I remember looking back and seeing my family and telling myself, you have to do this. This is not for you. It's for everyone who's looking up to you, everyone who's leaning on you, everyone who's waiting for you, everyone who needs something from you, who you're going to help uplift. And looking forward and saying, how do I bridge this gap in myself between my Latin family and my Black family? And I was 9 having these thoughts and extremely hungry. I just got to the table, and the female pastor at the time, deacon, I think is the correct term. She was asking me questions, where are you from? Where's your family? Do you want a plate, darling? And so nice, so nice. And I told her, oh, my family's over there. Can I have a plate to share with them? And she's like, bring your family over. You can all eat. And I just remember being so excited. I didn't even go back to my family. I yelled across the park, Mom, she says we can all eat. And I just grabbed a plate and started eating. And I'm sure if my mother was here now to talk about it, it would not be a highlight of her life. But for me, it felt so empowering to actually accomplish the thing that I set out for, and to know that because of me, my family would eat and without restriction for the day, and that there wasn't this separation, that we were all one people. And this woman saw me for what I was, a child who was hungry, not a mixed child, not a lost child. She just saw me as someone who she could help and she could serve.
Right.
And so for me, this moment signifies that I must give back. And I do. I actively give back in whatever capacity I can. And that everything that I do is being witnessed by the generations of my past. My ancestors are watching always, and that those who are still to come, the generations under me, are watching me as well.
Wow. 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 Yeah, that was courageous, What you did was just pure courage. Pure courage. Yeah. Tell me about your mom. Tell me just a little more about her.
She's the strongest woman I know. She experienced a lot of trials and tribulations and was very open with us about it from a very young age, as a way to bring awareness about the world. And I think that it did just that. And also, it sparked in me and my siblings a curiosity of, is the world actually that bad? Or are certain people bad? And the world is actually this great place that we have to find the good in. And she is the reason I'm actually back home in Seattle. I went to college actually out in New York City. And after college, I lived in New York and I was doing theater off Broadway. And I came home to surprise my mom for Mother's Day.
Mm.
And sadly, the surprise was on me. She didn't look good. There was something ailing her. Her spirit was off. Her aura was discolored and very cloudy. And I remember on the flight back after a week with her, I said, I have to go home. Something's not right. And later that year, after packing all of my belongings into storage and like just putting my life in New York on hold, we found out she had a failing heart. And so it was a journey of healing and sacrifice. And we're thankful that she's still here today, despite the doctors telling us she only had 4 months. And it's been now 4 years.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
she's just the strongest woman I know.
She is. She is. Wow. Wow, I hope she watches this and she knows how proud you are of her and how wide your smile is when you talk about her. Man, you remind me so much about my relationship with my mom, you know? When I talk about my mom, I feel so powerful, you know? And she gave me so much courage and, you know, I'm proud of you. I just thank you for being who you are and for you know moving to support your mom and and for just being you, you know. Yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. And so, you know, just looking at the work you've been doing here in the community, um, I feel that there was no better person to be involved with this Farm and Fable series that Lily Rabi brought us into, you know. And for me, farming and storytelling are like an intricate part of life for me. You know, I just love gardening, and I feel that it's part of the food justice system that you know a lot of black people in this country and even a lot of African people back in Africa are sidelined and are kept hungry because they don't have the ability to to produce their own food, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So being involved with this has been very educational for me, but it just affirms to me that my passion for gardening and making sure if I can produce extra, then I can share with other people, you know. I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to learn from you why and how you got connected with this Farm and Fable storytelling and interview series that we've been doing, and also share with me how your dinner went. I'm sorry I missed it. Did you do yours already?
No, no, no. It's next Sunday.
Oh, let's talk about that then. Let's talk about how you got involved with Farm and Fable and how people can actually join you for your virtual dinner. Mine was actually, oh, you joined me for
I was
mine.
there. Yes. Remind me, what's the bread that we made? The like
Ugali.
dough. Oh,
Ugali.
golly.
How did
Still
I
didn't turn
do?
out right. You did great.
Oh, tell me the truth.
No, it was such a good time. And
Yeah,
watching you prepare the meal was very lovely to be in your home with you. And I think that that's
yeah.
one of the great things about this series is so much of this year has felt disconnected because we quote unquote can't be together. But this series was different because it actually gave us, we already know that everyone's in their own home. And so it gave us that from the beginning. It wasn't oh, I'm going to try to hide my house and I'm going to put up curtains and all these things. It was like, no, you're going to do this thing with me in my home. I welcome you into my home. And from the beginning of your dinner, I believe on the 6th, um, it was really welcoming. I felt like I was in the kitchen with you.
Mm,
So that was really lovely. Thank you for sharing. And my partner and I, we still roast nuts I like cashews personally, but it changes the flavor just putting them on the stove with
Yeah,
water.
yeah,
So ingenious.
yeah. It's perfect. I used to love those, and it's true. The story I was sharing about the sellers, the street hawkers that used to sell it around. Oh, theirs were the most delicious. They just took their time making it, and they earned a living off of selling nuts door to door.
Wow.
Yeah, so people are very, very creative, and people actually are most creative in the most desperate moments in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Anyhow,
Absolutely.
so tell people who are watching and listening to today's episode how they can join you for your dinner.
Absolutely. If anyone were to visit the Common Acre, ACRE.org, on their website, you want to click on the Farm to Fable link and then hit the register button, and that will take you to a Google form where you can fill out information about yourself and access needs and all of the things. My dinner will be actually on my birthday, Sunday, May 30th. And that had to happen. I was scheduled to actually be this last weekend, but my cousin got married last weekend, and I was blessed enough to be able to attend the wedding. And so it just happens that I will be cooking on May 30th, which is a really great blessing.
Wow.
And it's interesting too about my mom's story. One of the things that we had to do in order to help her recoup and her body to adjust to her new needs with her medical condition was to start cooking more plant-based meals. And so on May 30th, I'm actually going to lead us in cooking a completely plant-based meal. So I'm excited to do that with some of the greens and plants and foods from Nurturing Roots Garden, which is up, I believe, on Beacon Hill in Seattle.
Wow.
Hmm.
When you talk about your mom and you talk about the connection about healing, how you are using plant-based food and cooking. Cooking in itself is a healing process. I love washing dishes, and sometimes even when my wife wants to do dishes and asks me to go and give the kids a bath, I say, oh, no, 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 you go and give them a bath, I'll do the dishes. Because then I get some time to think. And also I cook at least 3 times per week. Sometimes
Mm,
it's just taking leftover rice, mixing it with eggs, or finding leftover spinach, mixing it with rice. I love leftover. And
mhm,
sometimes my wife thinks I'm crazy because I can take Chinese, Indian, Kenyan, like any leftover. I just want to mix the different flavors because I don't like wasting food. And if I have to waste it, then I put it in the compost, and eventually it ends up in our garden, and I involve our kids in the process so they learn that you don't need to waste. But if you
mm,
have to throw away something, then you need to see where it's going and turn it into something.
mhm,
So I just wanted you to talk to me just a little more about self-awareness and how that is connected to healing, and how I can personally, and people who are watching and listening to our conversation today, can build up their muscle when it comes to self-awareness, and also how they can use that to heal themselves, whether it's from the stress that comes with living in America, the stress that comes with being someone that has black skin here in America, or in just this world. Um,
mm.
and just
Yes.
the strategies that you can use when it comes to the desire to thrive as a human being.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um, while my right brain is thinking about that, I'm going to take us back just one moment and talk about Farm and Fable and how I got connected.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, Lily Raby and I were, and another group of cohorted artists and activists were set to do a collaboration with Common Acre and Theater of the Oppressed, doing
Right,
a
I
theater
remember that.
series
Yeah.
and talking about food and awareness, speaking of, and community and the lack thereof in regards to racial equity and social justice. And then COVID hit. So that series ended up being shut down. But with the initial funding that was put together and the need to actually get involved and get people food who were now out of work, who were now stuck at home, all of these things, two things were happening. Lily was organizing with Food Lifeline and Common Acre to try and figure out how do we get people food now because they need it now. And I was living in a low income home with my mom at the time, um, in the Central District. And there are large communities of disabled folks, of single parents, of uh, people who just were in need. And so there was a community of kitchens who again had a bunch of food that was about to go as far as like becoming rotten or needing to be used, but their restaurants were closed. So the kitchen coalition decided we're going to cook meals and give them away for free. I realized that was happening in my neighborhood, and I said, okay, there's at least 100 people in this building who need food. So my mom and I started connecting with the kitchens and taking orders to the people in our residence and started taking food to their homes. So that's what I was doing on the ground level. And Lily reached out to the cohort at the same time and said, hey, I know this is not what we signed up for, but we're looking for one, a space to do a food distribution center either in the Central District or South Seattle. So if anyone has any connections, please let us know. And two, we're looking to organize volunteers. And so I was like, I'm in. Whatever you need, I'll help. And it was actually through one of my previous connections that we were able to get connected to a community center down in the Rainier Beach area. And we were able to turn the Rainier Beach Community Center into a distribution center. Our first day, we were able to feed 144
Wow.
families. And we thought we were only going to do this for a series of weeks in 1 month. By the last week, we were up to over 500 families, and they said maybe there's a need here. We need to do this longer, and that was in June, or it was either May or June of last year. So from then, we ended up extending all the way until October. So we did not 1 month, but almost 5 months, and served hundreds of people and organized volunteers. And I have to shout out Lily Rabel because she truly is about food equity and social justice and getting people their immediate needs. And really, I met her as an artist. So I'm just inspired by her every day. And to be a part of this series and not only talk about the need for us to better our bodies by consuming more good and foods that are going to help us nutritionally, but also to give back in this way as well, and hope that we can bring city awareness to some of the Black farms that are around. Because I didn't know there was a Black farm until earlier this year. And there's multiple throughout the city where we can
Right.
volunteer. We can actually go and pick our own foods. We can actually go and plant our own foods. I want to plant an avocado tree. And they were like, great, bring the seed. We'll give you the land. I'm sorry, what? Where does that happen? And unfortunately, due to our to the systematic racism throughout the history of the United States here, we and throughout the world, we are subjugated to less than what we should be granted access to, whether that means we are crammed into a large apartment complex with not enough room or even the ability to plant on our porches, or we don't have the time because we're working three jobs and we have multiple kids,
Right.
or whatever the case may be. Systematic racism have put us out of reach to be able to actually make our own food grow, consume that food, and put that food, whatever's left of it, back into the earth to then make more food grow. Because that actually would eliminate whatever is holding us down, right? If we were able to not only have the time, but the resources and the space to do for ourselves, then how would capitalism survive? That's like the only thing that I can understand as to why we are not granted that peace.
Right.
And so I'm just so excited to be a part of this series. And I hope that people can tune in, and I hope that I do as much justice with my dinner as you, sir, did
I
so
did.
graciously.
You're going to do well. You're going to do well. You have no idea how nervous I was that entire time. And, similar to how you operate, once I commit to something, I see it through. And if it's something that impacts the community, I do it. I don't even think too much about it. So I loved doing it, and I just enjoyed the food. For the next few days, I had a lot of food to eat. So it was good. I love to do things that I enjoy. If I don't enjoy it, I don't commit to it. I just say no.
And I
Yeah.
love that you just spoke about leftovers too, because as being the oldest, I think I've been cooking for my family since I was about 8, and my mom
Mm,
was in school and working and all these things. But at the same time, I always cooked for her, my brother and sister, myself, and
mm,
sometimes my stepdad. So it's just, I've always cooked for many, and
mm,
it's really hard to cook for me and my partner. So
mm,
there's always leftovers.
mm,
And I too try to reinvigorate them with new taste or experiments or new vegetables. And that's one of the aspects that I'm hoping to incorporate into this dinner,
mm,
because growing up, I was only taught to use onions or bell peppers. And so I'm hoping to get more vegetables. Well, since, my mom and everything, I've used hundreds of different vegetables now.
mm,
But I hope to share that with others in my circle who are also very limited to what they grew up with, and hope that people will expand and experiment. My grandparents, one of the vegetables that I'm hoping to cook on Sunday is Brussels sprouts. They're very
mm.
small, like smaller than my fist, obviously.
It's hard to
They're
do the right thing with those. Like I've always had. I need to attend this dinner. I need to know how to cook. They're like little cabbages, right?
I was just gonna say
Yeah.
my grandparents call them mini cabbages.
Yeah, they are. They
And I'm
look
like,
like that.
what? Mini cabbages? They're like, yeah, the little
Yeah.
cabbages. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Brussels sprouts. You're
Mm-hmm.
right. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, they're really easy. But they get soft very quickly. And
Mm.
so, yes, I mean, you and I could talk about Brussels sprouts for hours, but you could roast them, you could put them in a
Right.
soup. They're so good in a soup because the liquid sort of
Mm.
gets trapped behind the little like feathers
Mm.
of cabbage. And then
Mm.
when you bite down, it's just like a soup dumpling.
It drips in your
So,
mouth. Yeah.
exactly.
Nice, nice, nice.
Um,
Man,
yeah,
that
so I hope
alone,
people can
yeah.
attend
Yeah.
and experiment.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. And, the thing is, it's going to be recorded too. So those who don't attend can still learn how to make the food that you'll be sharing with people. And I feel like that alone is healing.
Mm,
That, and when you think about self-awareness too, it's just being aware about what you eat. What are you eating? Why are you eating it? What is it going to do to your body?
mhm,
Because I always believe that let your food be your medicine, and let your
mm,
medicine be your food. So before you give the power to the doctors, you should take control, and
mm.
and give your body what you can give it while you still can. Yeah, so
Absolutely.
yeah, what you're doing is very, very important. The dinner that you're going to produce is going to be amazing. And I want you to talk a little bit about self awareness and healing,
Yes.
because it seems everything we've been talking about is already connected to that. But I just want you to talk about how your work in the community that you're doing, whether it's through your show, whether it's through the workshops that you're doing, how that contributes to, not just healing people individually, but just making the world a better place.
Absolutely. I started my self-awareness work after my father passed. And I think it's been now 5 years, which is so crazy. Um, I didn't know my father very well. We met actually when I was 16, and I was visiting Columbia University for a summer camp in leadership. And he lived in New York City, where Columbia U is located. Um, we'll get to that in a minute. But
Yeah.
so we had a very estranged relationship. But the day
Yeah.
that I got his call, I remember feeling like I just got smacked around with a ton of
Mm,
bricks. My stomach fell through the floor. I felt like that scene in Avengers when
mm,
when the Hulk takes Loki and just like slams him back and forth. And
mm,
I just everything was disconnected for me.
mm,
And I went to the funeral, of course, and there was a lot of family drama involved, and no one was able to see me because I do have my father's face. And I found that a lot of family needed that. And so they were talking very highly of my father and um, really leaning on me for the healing that they needed to find
mm,
elsewhere because he and I didn't have the relationship that most fathers and daughters I would hope get to have. And so it was really hard for me coming back to Seattle after that experience. And I started writing. I've always been a journaler, I've always been a drawer, and I have crates of journals from when I was a kid
wow.
all the way to this point. And I'm actually in the process of compiling, I've narrowed it down to 15 journals and compiling them into a novel. I've been working on it now for
Yeah.
7 years.
Wow.
And so I,
Let me know if you need someone to work with you on that, like to guide you through it. I know a friend who works with writers. Anyhow, keep going.
okay. And so I realized through this, I found myself at a random poetry reading one night. And because I was wandering the streets, I'm not going to lie, I was dealing with drug addiction and alcohol consumption at the time, just really damaging my body and my mind and overworking. I was working about 18 to 22 hours a day just because I couldn't sit with my emotions. And this is for years now. So this is at least 2 years after he had passed. I was overworked, I was underslept, and consuming a lot of negative things and putting them in my body, a lot of toxins. And I wasn't eating healthy. I was sleeping and eating in my car, which you really shouldn't do because people need to be outside of small spaces. And I found myself at a poetry reading, and
Yeah.
I was so moved by the passion and the weaving of words and the cadences and the patterns and the rhythm, and I cried most of that night. And I found out it was a reoccurring series. So the next night I went back after a rehearsal, and they offered the mic to anyone. And I just pulled up something I had recently wrote, and I read it, and someone said, "Hey, how long have you been a poet?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" And they were like, "Yeah, how long have you been doing poetry? That was really good. Like, you should try out for our team. We go to nationals and we do all these things." And I was like, um, "I'm not a poet at all." That was a journal entry. And they were like, "You are a poet. You are definitely a poet." And so that was my introduction to poetry. I started doing a little more research and taking some classes and things of that nature. And now it's funny that I teach poetry classes. But
Hey, a quick question. Do you have a
yes.
poem to share with us right now?
Actually, yes, I'm writing one right now for the YMCA Equity Awards. I get commissioned a lot to write poems, and this is I can do one. Yes.
I would
Ready?
love that. Yes.
Okay. Everyone who's listening or watching, Simon literally just asked this on the spot. This is not planned, so okay.
It's a gift.
It
It's a
is a
gift to
gift.
the ancestors.
And this one's about ancestors.
Ooh.
Whoa. Okay, here we go. Hair curls which battle and intertwine, packed with knowledge beyond my years and intuition to keep my third eye wide. Eyes filled with the hopes and wants our ancestors dreamed of, we are beyond their wildest dreams. I wonder if I am the only one in an intertwined bloodline to which anxiety infects my mind from time to time. For generations, stress could be found in piles of picked hair threads, bitten off fingernails, papers torn to shreds, overeating, indulgent drinking, drug addiction, and self hate still battled in each one of us to this very minute of this very day. Skin brown from the minute we emerged, or was it not black enough to fit in? Were you dismissed for being too far sun-kissed? Separated by laws and the stares of white men, telling you all the things you couldn't do for generations after generations after generation, and still to this day we continue to be lynched in the streets or betrayed by those clothed by self-hate. Because of a few like you who stood up, we can sit and drink and marry whomever we choose. Because of a few like you who listened to the voices in their heads and tried to make sense of what was being said, you spoke out and rallied for us. Because of a few like you who explored ways to express, we create, manifest, and believe in the ability to live freely. Because of a few like you, they live on in each one of us, our breath, our voice, our hair, in each choice we make on a day-to-day, we represent them. For generations, our ancestors waited, cried, screamed, and dreamed of us. Here now with the rights we won and the ones we will soon take back. For generations, our ancestors have been waiting patiently for someone to say what I say now. Here and now, with these friends as my witness, I welcome my ancestors to guide me, to warn me, to help me, to use me, to be in, around, and through me. We will not give up on this journey toward equality. We will not stay silent in moments of injustice. I welcome you and the great spirit to express our message to the world in every avenue we choose and gain access to. Together, we are great. We are knowledge. Together, we are great. We are power. Together, we are great. We are unstoppable. Together, we are great. Ashe.
Ashe. Wow. Now I know why you are nervous before we started. You know how powerful you are, and you don't want to do you too much. Yeah.
I know, and this is something I've been working on the last few years, and again, I'm thankful to Lily for just opening the door to activism in my heart, because for a long time I've been scared.
Yeah.
Because time and time again, history has only shown us that people who stand up for what's right, they are murdered or killed or they disappear, and that's scary.
It's very scary. Yeah, it scares me too. It scares me a lot too, and I always I'm very calculative because of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very calculative with the steps I take, with the things I do, and I've come to grow to a point where uh, I'm one of I've learned to build the I don't give a fuck character,
Yes.
because because what else is left, so sometime I may stop doing something that many people want me to keep doing, but I know that
Mm.
this is where I stop it. If you want to do
Mm-hmm.
it, you can continue doing it, but for my own sanity and for my own long-term vision, this is it for now, and it's painful for many people, including family and friends. People always just want you to keep doing things,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't know why you do them. Yeah.
Yes. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I do my work
Mm.
is because after my, so again, I explained a little bit, but I grew up with my Latin family. I'm Afro-Latinx, and I was introduced to my Black family around the age of 16. And I started like really coming to grips with the world telling me that these are two separate worlds and that I need to find a way to fit into them separately,
Mm.
and then changing the narrative in my mind and using my work to depict that these are not separate worlds, but instead they are together in me. I am where they meet.
Mm.
And if people are not able to accept that, that's like you said, the fuck it mentality. Like, well, great, that's your problem. That actually has nothing to do with me. But in order for me to be able to walk every day and look in the mirror and be accepting of this person that I go to sleep with and accepting of the person that I wake up to, that person being me, I have to be able to find a way that these two worlds mesh. And that's where the self-awareness work really came in, because there was so many fighting elements within myself that I was just trying to, again, find ways that these two worlds, how do I fit into them when I'm in them? And whose struggle is my struggle? Am I supposed to rally with, um, you know, defend and ICE reform it when it comes to our children being stolen, Mexican children being stolen from their families and put in camps here in the United States and separated and, mentally gentrified of their culture? And who knows what's happening with those kids? Am I supposed to really rally and fight for them? Or am I fighting for Black lives who are being killed in the streets every day? And how are those fights not the same fight? And so, um, my work is about duality always. There is always duality in each one of us. There's no way to separate. For example, you, sir, are an African man, but you are an American father. You know what I mean? There's
Mm-hmm.
duality there. It's not that you are only an African man and you're not only an American father. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be both because both exist in you simultaneously.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the time, especially for people who come to this country, they're told to leave whatever it is they came here with and to assume whatever it is that we think this country is and the people here are. And you can't do that. The whole point, I think, at least my opinion is the whole point of this country is that you bring the richness of wherever you're from, whatever culture, whatever heritage, all of your ancestors, even bring some of that dirt with you, somehow packed into your blood, and you come here and you now create what you want to see happen next. But you can't release that history. You can't release those ancestors. You can't release that language. All of that has to come with you. And the awareness work is really about finding where our past and our future meet.
Right.
Because we can't let go of it. We have to move forward with it, acknowledging it. And even if it's a mistake, every relationship we have, there's something that we've been put into that situation to learn. What is it that you learned, and how are you moving forward? And what can you share about that experience with other people? And that, again, that goes into my work with addiction and having conversations around it. For myself, being able to talk about it, when in the Latin community and a lot of minority communities, actually, or global majority communities, we don't talk about our faults, right? We keep them on the hush. We don't bring our dirty laundry out of the closet. And we try to make sure that every time that we go to a family gathering, we look nice, we smile, whatever that is. We put on the show. We're all actors.
Right. Always a show.
And always a show. And for me, the last few years, my family's had a hard time because I no longer put on a show. I tell my family, my shows, my actual shows, my poetry, my one woman show, my theater, all of that, those are the shows you can come see. Those are the shows where I will put on a character, I will put on an act, I will make sure the words are memorized. When I go and I'm with my family, I'm going to tell you, if you ask me, hey, how are you doing? I'm having a really hard time. I'm behind on whatever car payments. I'm stressed out because XYZ. I've been battling with wanting to use or to have a drink or whatever the case may be. I'm having a hard time. How about you? And really, a lot of my family will look at me and go, oh, I didn't want to know all that.
Yeah.
So why did you ask me?
Yeah.
And I think that we're at a point right now where we don't have the time for fluff. There's no more fluff time. That was 2020. 2020 was fluff time. You could sit at home and pretend you were doing whatever you were doing, or show the world on social media you were doing whatever they wanted you to see them doing. You know what I mean? Like, that was the time to get your branding right. That was the time to like figure it out, who you wanted to be moving out. But now that we have been reminded that time is short, that we don't have tomorrow promised, that there is only this moment right here and right now, we have to be honest. We have to be truthful. We have to talk about exactly what we are here to talk about, or any of the topics that are supposedly off the table, because we don't know when we'll get that next time.
Right.
And truly, if anyone is aware of themselves, then they're able to have those conversations. But if we're stuck in clout, or another word for clout, like if you're out here for the likes, it's another phrase kids are using.
Likes and follows, yeah.
Yeah, if you're out here for likes and follows, I mean, do you, boo? But
Yeah.
I think that there's a movement of us truth seekers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us out here who are just here for the truth. And that's what we're interested in.
Yeah.
And if you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be honest with me. And
that's so important. So important. I just feel I feel nourished by everything you just said. I'm just so grateful we had this opportunity to talk. I feel like I came for therapy. Talk to me a little bit about your perspectives on Black fathers worldwide. You know, in Kenya, there was a movement a few years ago that was called deadbeat fathers, because there were so many fathers that were being said to be absent. And then when I came to the US, I learned that the same perception exists. But I feel that that perception is not true, because I know many Black fathers that are amazing. And I always strive to be much better than my father. I know my father was a polygamist. He had a lot of issues, and we never had the perfect relationship. Even now, we don't have the perfect relationship. He's over 80. He's almost 84 now.
wow.
But so we never knew each other much. I grew up with my mom as my father, really, but I'm striving always, every day, to be a good father, So why I started the African Father in America podcast is because a friend of mine, a young father like me, committed suicide in Vancouver. He's a creative, he was a filmmaker, and so I wanted to do this to inspire other black fathers to talk about their stories, so that people know how amazing and how wonderful we are as human beings, as fathers, and also how much we try, how much we also fail and recover and do better, So I just wanted you to imagine that you're talking to all the black fathers out there. What advice would you give them?
Love your little girls, honestly and truthfully, and also let them know that not every man is going to be as good as you. And that's just the truth.
Yeah.
And at least for me, my father was not a very good example of this, but I've had really great substitute black fathers throughout my life who have given me really great love and support and encouragement.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of one right now who passed just a little while back. And yeah, I think that the biggest thing is just to remind your children in general that not everyone can live up to the expectations that you set by your example. And I hope that you set a good example because children watch more than they listen. And so I would just say to live honestly and be truthful and to speak it out. And rather than get angry, ask questions. I recently was talking, and for me, my because of the trauma I experienced in my younger years, a lot of my memory is a gray haze, and I don't have a lot of memories banked. And I have a really hard time recalling things. But most recently, my partner, who's a teacher, has a young child who may or may not be being sexually abused at school, and they're showing some signs of that. And I was thinking back to my own life, and it brought back a memory of me showing signs of that. And again, I didn't have a father to talk to, I didn't have somebody of that nature. And my mom was constantly working and, or in school. And to the person who did experience those signs, they just said, no, don't do that. And they walked away. But I believe that parents should ask questions. Hey, why'd you think that was okay? Who showed you that? Those type of inquiries will get us farther as a community and help us all heal and get down to the actual problems instead of damaging us by telling us we are wrong when obviously we're being taught by somebody that it's okay. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that was advice or just me
It
speaking.
was. Everything you say is valuable, and you spoke so much to me personally. So if it's not valuable to somebody else, it's on them. So thank you. Share with us how people can stay connected with you, how people can support your work.
Yes. I'm on Insta of the Grams at smiling, SMILING _A as in apple, V as in Victor, I as in igloo. Smiling Avi. And then on Facebook, I am Aviona the Creatrix.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, my dear, thank you so much for being here with us today, and to everyone who joined us for the 60th episode of the African Father in America podcast. Thank you so much. Today we talked about self-awareness and healing. We covered the story of the wonderful Aviona Rodriguez Brown from when she was about 8 years old. And then we talked about Farm and Fable. We talked about self-awareness and healing. We talked about perspectives on Black fathers and just advice for Black fathers. And then we talked about how you, our viewers and listeners, can support the work of this wonderful, wonderful human being. We had a beautiful poem. Your poetry is just so beautiful, so powerful. We have to work together. I just need to bring you to other platforms where I have a bit of a presence. In fact, I am organizing a 24-hour marathon on Clubhouse for
Whoa.
Africa Day. So 24 hours of programming on Clubhouse this Tuesday, May 25th. It's going to be a historic event. We have amazing leaders from the maybe I should just share with people a few
Yes, please.
maybe I
And
should.
also tell me how I can watch on Clubhouse.
It's on Clubhouse, and I can send you an invite. But for example, the opening ceremony is being graced by the former Special Advisor on Africa to the United Nations, Secretary General Beyonce Gawanas, and also the Under Secretary General Christina Duarte, Special Advisor on Africa to the United Nations Secretary General. Those are two powerful women who are opening this event, but it's at 5 a.m. in the morning Pacific Standard Time. The event starts in Thailand, you know?
Wow.
So the first show is being presented by African people in Thailand, you know? So it's taking us through the entire African diaspora worldwide, you know? Then it goes to West Africa, then it goes to Europe. We have a poetry segment you should come to, you know. We have so much to do together. So the poetry segment is called Discover Africa's Diaspora Poets. There's a poet from London called Livia Kojo Aluor that is curating that segment, you know. Man, we should have met a long time ago. Anyhow, this show goes all the way to Jamaica, the Caribbean region, where we are featuring a few well-known reggae artists and the vice president of the Caribbean Parliament. You know, his name is Senator Ranad. He's leading a conversation about the history of how African people got to the Caribbean, you know, Caribbean music, you know. Then we do have an Afro-Latina musician performing during the main event, you know. Her name is Maja Plain. You should come to the main event. I am curating that segment. It's at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, you know. So I could have you as my special guest. Think about it.
Okay.
Anyway. So we are going to end our conversation today, but I'm just so grateful to you. I'm just so grateful. Thank you so much.
Can I give one more advice to anyone who's thinking of writing or has been writing?
Yes.
I would just suggest write from your heart and don't censor yourself. Just allow it to be and put it down, especially if you're trying to actually write poetry or make a poem in like any type of standard. Put it down, walk away, come back. I've written poems from lines that I wrote 8 years ago, and I took that and wrote a whole new poem like the one you just heard. So just calm, breathe, try to get that breath all the way down into your core. And let that in and let that out. You want to do a breath together to close?
Why not?
We're here. All right. Try to find a comfortable position, whether you're sitting or lying down. If you're sitting, put your feet flat on the ground. Try to get your back straight-ish, relaxed. Sit. And go ahead and close your eyes. Just recognize your breath. How are you breathing? All right. Now blow all your breath out. And breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. And hold. 2, 3, 4, and breathe out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. Feel what it feels like to be empty. Feel what it feels like to need breath. And breathe in. 2, 3, 4, and hold. Feel what it feels like to be full. Are you exploding? And out. 2, 3, 4. Take this next breath on your own. Thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much. You have a good night, man.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. We'll connect again soon. Okay.
Indeed.
Peace. Thank you.
Father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.